Day and good morning. This confirmation public hearing conducted by the Committee on General Governmental Operations and Cultural Affairs will now come to order. Notice of this confirmation hearing was disseminated to all local media outlets by electronic format on February 26, 2014, with the second notice on March the 4th, 2014. Notice of the hearing was also made known on the Guam Legislature's website. Today we have one confirmation, and a bill has been tabled by the author that was going to be heard today. So the confirmation today is the executive appointment of Darryl Taggerty as station manager for Guam Telecommunications Corporation, KGTF PBS. We have Mr. Taggerty here, and I'll invite him to present his testimony.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Speaker, Mr. Chairman, for hearing the Governor's nomination for me to serve people of Guam as the station manager for PBS Guam, also known as KGTF. I submitted a written statement which details my previous experience. I'd like to simply summarize it for the purposes of the hearing today, and ask that it be entered into the record in its written form. When I first became aware of public radio, public television, was when I moved with my family to the Washington, D.C. area in January of 1971. These were new networks, and I was not only impressed by them, but also by other non-commercial forms of media, electronic media, that were active in the Washington, D.C. area. So I was very familiar with WETA television, which was the Washington anchor for the PBS network, and also WAMU at American University, which was the studios for the National Public Radio News, and I listened to both the entertainment and the news programming on WAMU avidly during my years in Washington, D.C. Also at Georgetown University, where I attended, was one of the very best independent non-commercial radio stations anywhere in the country, and I followed the fortunes of that station as it rose and fell. Several years later, 10 years later, in 1981, I was fortunate to have become a volunteer at a similar station in Baltimore at the Johns Hopkins University. After a year there as a volunteer, I was asked to be the acting general manager. Since I was not a student at Johns Hopkins University, they simply asked me to be in charge for the summer while the student board was out of town. At the end of the summer, they offered me the general manager position. To make me eligible, they offered me a scholarship and guaranteed matriculation in classes of my choice. And I turned it down because I was already on my way back to Guam. Later, when public radio was started here on Guam, the founding general manager notified me that he was stepping aside and wanted me to apply for the job. This was in 1996. I left the governor's office to apply for that, to take that position at KPRG. And that was pretty much a dream come true. I served 5 years all told as general manager there, and 1 year as executive producer. The last 5 years, I worked for Robert Kelly, a telecommunications consultant, who's been my friend for over 25 years, and also has been my partner in a nonprofit, founding member of Mariana's Educational Media Services Incorporated, that I am the president of. And we have 3 FM stations on Saipan, all non-commercial. We rebroadcast Public Radio Guam. We also bring EWTN services to Saipan. Until they have a bishop, they can't accept the station. We're giving the station to the diocese, but they can't accept it yet. We went ahead and put EWTN on at no expense to the church. Until then, and then when they do accept it, we'll turn over all of the equipment and do the training, and we've already pledged to them in writing. We also carry Melodies of Prayer, which is heard here on Guam on 106.9 and 107.9, and the producer of that program stream here on Guam leases the station up in Saipan for the edification of people on Saipan. So those are what I currently do. The governor asked me to serve the people of Guam in an executive appointment, and when I came available, it just so happened that the station manager position at PBS Guam was vacated, and so he asked if I would please serve in this capacity. So here I am today, offering myself to the legislature for your consideration as the next station manager for PBS Guam. At this point, I'm be very happy to entertain your questions and to hear your concerns.
I haven't had a chance to read your written testimony, but I was hoping that you might expand on some of the plans that you'd like to implement as station manager, what you envision for the future of PBS, and just so that everybody understands what they can look forward to. There's no question that you have the credentials. The issue now is, do you have the mission and the vision to take this over? I mean, it's obvious with your nonprofit that you do have, and you have been doing it in other areas, but what are your plans specifically for PBS? And is there a conflict between your nonprofit and those things that they're doing and your position at PBS?
I'd like to answer the second question first, because I don't want that to be lingering and then have it be just an afterthought. I don't think there's a conflict. These stations, the three stations, are operated out of a remote studio by FCC permission at Sunny Plaza here on Guam. They're all remote stations. They simply pass through the audio that is sent to them via IP, and the operations they're not time intensive, and they're not costly, and also they're not in any conflict with the mission or the operations of PBS Guam. In fact, some of the experience and the connections that I have through having those stations on Saipan will assist in carrying through part of a strategic plan that had been drafted by my predecessors, which is to expand PBS Guam services into the Northern Mariana Islands. And so I don't see any other conflict, and if there is a conflict, then I will certainly step away in favor of my government job. That is my primary job. But I don't see any reason to do that. If anyone raises the question, then I will certainly step back. I'm on the board. I'm not paid by the nonprofit. Never was. It's strictly as volunteer. The only people who get compensation are the ones who provide services under written agreements, engineering, leases, and stuff like that. That's where the money goes. On the vision for PBS Guam, I'd like to start with what I found when I came to the facility itself. There's a crying need for updating the equipment. I have a great staff. They are very experienced. They know what they're doing. They know what they want to do. But using 5-year-old editing suites, 6-year-old editing suites, 10-year-old cameras, 20-year-old other devices makes it very slow and inefficient to produce. They can do 3 times more with better equipment. And so first off, I really want to get them better equipment, HD cameras and HD editors, so that they can do their work quickly. This is in the production side. The facility itself, the studio, was given to KGTF back in the mid-1970s. It used to be the industrial arts area of GW High School. We have a wood wall that separates us from the remainder of that same space, and in those rooms there are regular classes. Now that the census of GW High School is is slated to decline next year, I am asking the Department of Education to let us expand into the remainder of that space that would make the studio area about 65 or 70 feet long by 35. And that would also afford us a back door, because right now I don't consider that facility to be safe. We can't actually put people in there to work. We use it as a studio, but it has one substandard size door in a 32 by 34 space. It also has on that wall an electrical sub-panel, which I don't think should have been there. I would put a door through the concrete, except I don't have as-builts for the way the doorways were cemented in. And some years back, Public Works said that they did not recommend opening up those walls because of the possible impact on the load-bearing columns. And so I'm pretty well stuck with what I have. We have a great facility where it's been expanded, but the studio itself needs to be worked on. As far as programming, we have a digital transmitter, which was provided through a grant, and the digital conversion of all television stations in the United States. Digital programming, a digital transmission, allows for up to 4 channels to be transmitted out of the same transmitter at the same time. So right now we have channel 12. We have channel 12.2. If you go to your television and click over to 12.2, you'll see the same programming. We have not put a programming stream on 12.2. If we provide additional cards into our transmitter, we can transmit 2 additional standard definition channels. And my idea for this is to carry the legislative channel and the Guamanian channel as broadcast channels, not dependent on cable, because this is a public service. Carry it and put it out to the people of Guam. We also have some areas that are shadowed by terrain, so our terrestrial broadcast can't be reached in places such as Agate, Moleso, Umatic, and Irahan. And I'd like to install translators. There was a translator at the water tank up in Moleso some years back that was destroyed and never replaced. And so I would like to secure translators, one out at Arodi Point, one at Moleso, and hopefully one in Irahan, to cover those 3 areas. Large populations, and they deserve to be served equally. The programming that we have on PBS Guam that is brought in by satellite, we're not using everything that we have paid for, because we don't have enough space on the one channel. But I'm already working on getting some of that on 12.2. Even though 12.2 was originally foreseen as a completely local channel, until we have enough material to put on 12.2, we can't fill it with all local material. We also will need independent producers to bring in, suggest material, provide us material to broadcast. We have a channel, we can show it. So this would be films that have been produced, shorts, any kind of productions, and we would screen them and consider them for airing. Also, we have a sister station, which is an FM licensee held by Hurrao Incorporated. We've been assisting them to make sure that they did not lose this license back in late 2013, and they need some guidance, so we can provide them with the technical guidance and also help them with their organization, so they can set up a robust production facility for what they need to do to fulfill their mission, and also so they can raise the money. We can have them as a paying tenant on our tower at Barragata Heights, which they have already, which is already showing on their license. Educational television, educational radio has a very broad mandate to do all the things that commercial television and radio do not do, don't want to do, and can't be compelled to do under the law. This was recognized by Congress back in 1930. That leaves all Guam, for Guam. Although PBS Guam is renamed from being KGTF some years ago, it's something of a misnomer because PBS is a network that we subscribe to, that we pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for the rights to carry their programming. But KGTF, the license, the transmitter, the annual Corporation for Public Broadcasting grants are all predicated on local production, a local production capability. It's supposed to be a station for Guam, by Guam, for Guam. And that is going to be we have the PBS programming covered. Now we're going to move into local productions, and that includes not only Guam but also the Northern Mariana Islands. The law restricts the Guam Educational Telecommunications Corporation to television, and I would like to ask that it be broadened to include radio. Not to include public radio for Guam, because they're perfectly fine the way they are, but so there's no problem with assisting Hurrao and even assisting to set up a Micronesian channel, so we can serve serve Micronesia out of Guam, with Micronesians here on Guam speaking to Micronesians in their home islands. This was a proposal I brought up, not in connection with PBS Guam, but in connection with the possibility of bringing one of the stations down from Saipan, and it's an FM station, and putting it here, and also assisting the stations that are located in each of the Micronesian centers, state centers, where they currently run AM stations that are very costly because of the power requirements in order to reach the outer islands. It would be more economical for them and be of higher service to convert their local or their main island programming and transmission to FM, low power FM, and to run one shortwave out of Guam and have one FM on Guam corresponding via IP to the stations throughout Micronesia. And this would fulfill a need for the Micronesian community, not just on Guam, but also throughout the world and within the home islands, to improve the quality of communication and also improve community and improve understanding among us here on Guam. This was an idea that I presented to the Micronesian Chief Executives Conference back in 2011, and it was endorsed, and it's just a matter of following through on that. The fact that I am a holder of a license that may be partner of this, and am standing before you as the potential station manager for PBS Guam, I don't see as a conflict. And again, if it was a conflict, I would simply spin it off to another group that would be the advocate and the holder of the license and move forward on this plan. But this is my vision for PBS Guam.
It's a very great vision, and I'm a little concerned about the radio part being done immediately. I'm more concerned about what we plan in the next year, next 2 years, and I want to thank you for coming and visiting me and us discussing, now appropriate for the month of March, the issue of Chamorro immersion and expanding Chamorro television shows on PBS. Since that time, have you had an opportunity to think about what we talked about, and would you like to put on the record what you think of what I presented to you as possibilities, and whether or not there's any chance of those seeing the light of day or a day of programming?
It's actually one of the highest priorities, but because it's such a detail, it wasn't part of a strategic plan. It was really more of something that we just have to stop and organize and do. And that was a great idea that you brought up, which is to have news in Chamorro. The daily news, the weekly news, however, so we could hear the news in Chamorro, real ideas, concepts that we're familiar with on a daily basis, but expressed only in Chamorro. So that Chamorro is not a social language exclusively, but one of important matters of the day, and that would really expand our understanding of the language and our ability to use it. That is something that I've brought up with the staff, and because of the focus on getting Chamorro Month off the ground, I haven't spoken with the other folks that you mentioned, but I will be, and this is going to be something that I'd like to get going. In fact, if we can do it before the end of this month, so much the better. That is something that really should be done, and we'll find time in the schedule to do it on the main Channel 12, not waiting for Channel 12.2 to start. When I mentioned Hurrah, that was what Hurrah was set up to do and is intending to do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that was something that I've been discussing with Anne-Marie over at Hurrah for the past 5 years, and offering to set up production facilities and train volunteers and set up a procedure about how they can have spoken Chamorro in various locations being fed into a central facility, rather than having people come to a facility to operate a radio station. Simply have satellite production centers, atomize it, put it out in the community, and have people offer audio that is being captured of real people speaking about real subjects in a setting, and maybe even having a component where you go through and you take the vocabulary that was heard in the previous segment and you explain it. This is something that should be done, in my opinion, and is about 5 years overdue. And that's why I'm so happy to be in a position to help Hurrah. I've been offering this assistance to Emery for over 5 years, in writing. And she's very well aware of it, and so I look forward to working with her to continue building out that radio station.
Do you have any questions? Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would like to congratulate the Governor's Office for what I consider a very excellent appointment, and your willingness to serve as well, Darryl. I was very I didn't know your background. I know of you in social circles, but I got to say that I've been extremely impressed this morning listening to you. I have two questions basically, and you kind of hit on them, and you've probably answered the first one already, but I just wanted to see what additional possible expansion you would have with regard to working with the Department of Education in the endeavors that you've discussed. I think you're on to something, and that could create a lot of excitement within DOE in terms of bringing the broadcast in, because you mentioned education. And I remember in stateside schools that I attended as a young boy, a lot of public broadcasting was part of AV, and you would go to AV in order to kind of view other educational programming, even within the school setting. Do you see that as a possibility? And the second part of my question would be, you mentioned the issue, and it's very exciting that you presented to the Micronesian Chiefs. I encourage you also to please approach myself as well as the speaker, who now is currently the president of APIL, because one of the major components of every conference that we have, the planning conference and the other conference that brings together the Association of Pacific Island Legislatures, is connecting the Blue Continent. And basically that is an endeavor, of course, where we're looking for a lot of private enterprise. As you well know, the connectivity and the like is something that is quite expensive, but it's needed, especially in telemedicine areas and things like that. So whatever efforts you're talking about in terms of programming, you could actually be a catalyst for one of the early endeavors. And so I encourage you to work with APIL, and just wanted to get your thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator. This is both excellent concerns, and I'd like to address them at this time. The first one with working with DOE. The audiovisual, well, I was familiar with audiovisual since I was a kid because I used to run it over at Wettengel Elementary from about second grade on. But I'm not really familiar with what they're doing these days as far as audiovisual. There is an NPR and a PBS restriction on having actual classes over the airwaves. But as far as clubs, say sponsoring a club at GW High School for a communications club that would then seek to communicate what are the concerns of students and put it in an audio or visual format and then provide those production materials to PBS Guam to be broadcast is something that should be done. It should have been being done before. We should have communication clubs in all the schools to do this, and from junior high and high school. And I'd like to look into this as far as a possibility. When you started talking about DOE, I was still thinking about tomorrow. Language promotion, and it seemed to me several years ago that some of the money that's being used within DOE now for tomorrow education could be used more efficiently and effectively supporting broadcasting on a 24-hour basis to everyone. And that's a personal perspective of mine, and I don't know how the mechanics would work out, but certainly the teachers of tomorrow in the schools who have already been certified and are actively promoting the language could be part of the group that would be providing material for the broadcast. I certainly will look into trying to tie together the schools and broadcasting. I'm very interested in interns since the time I've been a lifelong volunteer, and also I've managed volunteers at KPRG, and I think that volunteers coming in to any station basically are an expansion of the staff. If they can be trained, if they're motivated, and they should be folded into the activity of the station itself. I've already reached out to the University of Guam Communications Department to see if we could get interns for this term, and I'll be meeting with them next week to get agreements in place. On the regional communication, I'd like to provide you with a copy of my proposal to the chief executives, and you'll see what that vision is, what it involves. And it had more to do at the time, had more to do with nation building and with allowing the Micronesian community to see themselves as a single community with 5 or 7 language sets, subsets, and but to allow them to see themselves the way they are, speak to themselves, and reflect their own concerns and joys through their own media. That was the idea, and to assist, let Guam resident Micronesians help residents in their home islands understand what it's like living on Guam through programming that they would generate on their own in the vernacular. This would not be an English language station. It would be all timeshare in the vernacular of the languages. Since I was at KPRG and with Bob Kelly at MCS, we would discuss quite a bit about the opportunities in telecommunications for bringing telemedicine and whatnot. Now with broadband services being expanded throughout Micronesia, there's no reason for it not to happen. I don't understand the legal or regulatory impediments, but this is something that also came up during the November 2011 Micronesian Chief Executives Conference. I'm sorry, it was earlier that year. I think it was March 2011, Micronesian Chief Executives Conference, and that was a separate paper that Bob Kelly presented to the chief executives, and he would know more about it centers to Guam and vice versa via IP, real time or delayed, broadcast on a delayed basis, was to directly assail the restrictions, whether they're price restrictions or technical restrictions on getting large amounts of content through cheaply. Thank you.
Thank you for your responses, and you certainly have my support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, that I'm related to Darryl. Our families are very close. I grew up with this family in Sinahanya. It's great times. Darryl, I'm glad that you've taken the governor's. You accepted the governor's appointment to PBS, and I look forward to seeing many good things coming out of PBS. And a lot of things have come out growing up with PBS. With the Sesame Street and channel, and the one show that I really miss is the one where the bill is sitting on the steps of Capitol Hill, and talking about how a bill becomes law and things like that. Those type of programmings really intrigued me. Many things that when I visited up at PBS, and you were talking about the facilities and things like that I know were concerns of the previous director too. That, how do you or do you foresee PBS going into a new facility, or at least an expanded facility sometime in the future, or do you see doing with what you have now and hoping for another facility to come along?
The current facility is adequate except for the studio space, and the studio really suffers from life safety issues. I think it wouldn't sustain an inspection, and so we need to have a rear exit to the studio because the George Washington High School is expected to have a smaller census next year. This is the first opportunity in the last 43 years to make a serious play for the remainder of the space that was given to us 40-some years ago. And so that's what I'm doing. And that's only from a week ago that the board decided to cut the census of GW High School basically in half. And so that allows us to make this move without expecting the Department of Education to hurt from this. And so I'm asking for that.
That's glad. I'm glad to hear that, and I hope that you're successful in that, and that you'll be able to get that studio expanded, or new studio, whichever you can get your hands on. But I'm glad that you're there, and hope, and I look forward to voting on your confirmation in the future. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have a few more questions, Darryl. Yesterday, the OPA and Deloitte issued the audit on KGTF PBS. Have you had a chance to review it?
Well, actually, one of the reasons that one of the preoccupations I've had over the past several weeks has been in making sure that this audit was finalized. Yes, I was actively involved in preparing it.
Okay, so are there any recommendations in there that the auditor is recommending that need to be addressed financially? I know it mentioned that PBS is in financial straits.
Well, the financial straits have to do with the falling off of revenues over the past couple of years in a couple of areas, production and in donations, and that's something that we have to address separately. But we have a reserve that is needed in order to bridge the time between the approval of a grant and the actual disbursement of the money. We have to be able to carry all of our employee paychecks over a period in the fall before the allotments are released. And so the PBS, the CSG money, the Community Service Grant money, is not received until December, and then the balance of it is provided in April. So we have to have this bridge money. Also, for the past 10 years, Congress has been threatening to completely defund the National Endowment for the Arts. It's been quiet as of late, but there's a 2-year look ahead. There's a 2-year commitment by Congress for funding, and our grants are 2 years. So we get a 2014 grant, we can spend it through the end of 2015. Because of the financial difficulties we've had maintaining the pace of fundraising over the past couple of years, we've been eating into that reserve, and that is of concern to the auditor because they understand the cushion that we need. There were a few things they wanted us to do, move some numbers around that were postings that were had to do with definitions of a post. That was done easily, and there were no findings that were material for the financials. In fact, the OPA was very happy that we completed the audit on time for Corporation for Public Broadcasting deadline on February 28th, and also for the OPA deadline of the end of March. But we met those deadlines. That's why they appeared on the OPA website.
One other thing that I'd like to discuss with you openly. Your plans that you've talked about, that you made the presentation of the Micronesian chiefs, and the wanting to broadcast out to the rest of the Blue Continent. I'm not trying to be, sort of Guam-centric, but initially I'd like to be Guam-centric. I don't know if you saw the news stories of those young Micronesian students and young people that want to promote a positive image of the Micronesian community here on Guam.
I must have missed it.
You should find it. You can speak to somebody else that's in the room who did the story. I won't say in the news on the air, but the thing is, it was a very good story, and it's no secret that I've been pushing the issue of some deportation. But in my letters, I've said the important thing is that it's unfortunate that with all of the students that have graduated from the University of Guam who have become presidents of these Micronesian countries, governors of these countries, and been very successful, that the news on Guam are the criminals, the ones that violate the law. And I really do think that it's imperative that as part of the effort at PBS, even before you get 12.4 or 6, whichever is going to be your Micronesia link, that along with the Chamorro immersion and promotion, language promotion thing, one of the things that is necessary is that I'd like for you guys to think about having these young people, and maybe even some of the ministers that have spoken out on the issues, and try to get some positive news out there about what they're doing in this community and being positive role models to the kids. Unfortunately, some of them don't have positive role models. And so if we can, and I understand that in 30 minutes in a news story, and even when they interview me for 10 minutes, I get all of about 3 seconds. There just isn't time in a 30-second news story to be able to properly promote these issues. That part of the educational campaign, because they make up such a large part of this community, it's imperative that PBS does something to try to promote positive role models and reaching out, like the conference they had a couple of weeks ago at Agada about some of the parents that made the presentations about how to parent and what the issues that they have. WestCare, I know, does some outreach to the community, the Micronesian community, and they have native speakers because the translation's different. And I mean, it makes a difference when you ask the question in English and the question is asked in Chuukese or in Khazarian, that you get a completely different answer back. And so trying to get those, devote some time even on 12 right now before you get to even 2. But this community's not going to be able to move forward unless we can turn the tide in this community and address some of these issues. But I'd like to suggest publicly at this point that, and maybe get your feedback since you've already been thinking about this for 5 years, how we can do that, because it's imperative that parenting and just even talking to Jolene Respicio to find maybe someone at the judiciary to do play by the rules in Chuukese so that they understand that when you live in this community that there are laws and though we're doing it out in the elementary schools and the high schools, that if somebody could do play by the rules in Chuukese or Khazarian or Pohnpeian, that would really make an impact in trying to reach out. And since most of them probably can't afford cable, that PBS is probably the one station that they can reach besides KUAM. So like in the old days when we only had KUAM and KGTF, reach out to them, because I really think it's imperative that we do some education and modeling in a positive way, because it is not and should not be seen as all negative. That there are exponentially more positive things than there are negative. But unfortunately, the news being what it is, that's the one that gets the top front page.
I think this is why I'm so happy to be appointed to this position, because as I mentioned earlier about how public broadcasting has a mandate to do all the things that commercial radio and television don't want to do for their own reasons, this is the opportunity to bring this onto the airwaves through PBS, especially having another channel ready to go. I think that the articulate people in all the communities, sub-communities on Guam, whether they're Chamorro or Chuukese, whatever their passion, but when they realize that they can have their expressions represented fairly, not in a truncated fashion as we find in commercial news, but in long form, in the time it takes to fully explain and to present in a positive and fair manner, whatever their passion. That is the purpose of public television. And I'm so happy to have not only 12.2 ready to go, but also to be able to shoot material to go on to the Guamanian channel. Because we can put stuff on there now. Just put it on there. And that could be shot in standard definition. It could be shot on a GoPro. It could be shot on home video, because it can handle it. And also the broadcasting of PBS Guam, the broadcast capability gets it out to the homes that are not connected to either DOCOMO or GTA. And one of the things I wanted to do, I've already discussed it with my staff about how we can make this happen, is to have an antenna drive. How to set up an antenna, promote antenna installments. Last document I saw, there was an estimate that 15,000 homes on Guam are connected to GTA and DOCOMO. I don't know where that figure came from, but certainly there's a very large percentage of homes on Guam that are not connected to wired services, and that is a market for us. And if we have compelling programming available for them, they'll watch it, especially in the Micronesian community. And so I want to thank you for that encouragement. And this was part of the back details of what I had proposed with radio, and the same purposes on radio. But now that I have access to television channels, certainly on television, and this can happen in the next several months. There's no reason to wait.
Yeah, I mean, I remember growing up, and as old as I am now, I'm having a senior moment, but there used to be that Filipino show on KGTF that ran weekly, and that gave a sense of community to, and
Yes.
it had all the positive role models
Yes.
of the Filipino community coming on and talking about their efforts in the community, and that gave them the pride that has moved them forward. And I really do think that we can do the same thing with the Micronesian community in here, that we can both educate them and instill a pride that they can't get in the regular media, because it's just magistrates reports.
It's similar to the Chamorro experience with PDN through the 60s and 70s, 80s, sometimes now, and that is that there is an editorial bias, and that bias is what we as a people think of ourselves. We accept it because we read it, we see it in print, and we don't see the positive role models in the media. Lots of commercially relevant role models, but it takes some effort to build basically a mirror for the community to see themselves the way they are, and to allow people in the community to help that happen. And these are the very people that are doing it one-on-one or in meetings. If those meetings were videotaped, or to have them recreated in a studio in a way that is optimizes the presentation, and certainly these are what we can start with right away.
You have any further?
Just a quick follow-up, Mr. Chairman. As you were speaking in terms of the financial picture and the audit, I would encourage, now that you've really made a clear distinction on what your goals are, given the fact that the tourism industry employs most heavily, I think, those in the service industry of all of our ethnic backgrounds, but most certainly I know that my visits show more of a minority twist. I think maybe your connection should be to Carl right away at GVB, and see if he can't set something up for you where you can make connections to those groups, because I think the hoteliers and others would be very interested and seeing something that they would invest in terms of donation that's tax deductible for them, that has a real outcome in terms of outreach to the community. And I think that may shore up your ability to bridge the gap in financing, just simply because if you had that proposal and Carl would set up those meetings for you, I think those industry professionals would say, yeah, we want to invest in that, and it's a good for them because it's tax deductible, and also just the fact that they have a buy-in to your programming, servicing a population that they have a strong connection to in terms of service industry employment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. That's a great idea. Great idea. Thank you.
All right, Darryl, thank you. I'm excited about your confirmation, and it'll be on the agenda for the week of the 24th, and you can expect my support for it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senators, for today.
This hearing's on confirmation of Darryl Taggerty for the position of General Manager of the KGTF PBS station is now adjourned.
Thank you.